Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today we're going to take a look at a pretty sweet blade from We Knives. This is the We Knives Zeta, designed by Elijah Isham. Now, Elijah has a number of collaborations out there. He's got a couple with Kaiser, the Megatherium, and the Theta. He has another knife called the Eschaton that's with same company as we're looking at now. And he's also got a Browse collab and I think at least one collaboration with a custom maker. So Elijah Isham is kind of all over the place right now, and his designs are pretty interesting. They tend to, now there are some exceptions, but especially this knife as well as the Megatherium, the Kaiser collabs, they tend to be very interesting and artistic, yet still manage to cut pretty well or to be fairly useful as a tool. Now with a knife like this, I mean, you can tell just by looking at it that we're making some sacrifices, you know, when it comes to function versus form here. Okay, so there are some function points that may be given up here in order to gain a particular look. And this knife certainly has a look to it, and it's very, very attractive. So I want to kind of get that out of the way right at the start. This is not, you know, when I'm reviewing this, I'm not going to review it like a Para 2 or something where I'm just asking, you know, is this an acceptable cutting tool? Because there's another dimension to this knife, which is the artistry of it and the intricacy of the design. And that's not going to be appreciated by everyone, but for someone who likes this and someone who's into that kind of knives, I think this is a pretty good option. So let's go ahead and get into the various features and size and weight and all that stuff the way we're used to. So overall, this is a fairly large knife. I don't know. I guess it's a medium-sized knife, 8 7/16 overall, 3 9/16 on the blade, so just a hair over 3.5 inches. Now notice there's going to be just a little bit more cutting edge there, about 1/8 of an inch more than that 3.5 inches. The handle length when closed is going to be 4 7/8. And this guy is just over 1/2 inch wide, but measures about 9/16 wide. The weight on here is not too bad, especially for a knife of this size. Comes in at 4 ounces, and that weight is probably due to the fact that you've got this fairly large cutout, as well as a good portion of the handle is made from carbon fiber, which is going to lighten things up a bit. In terms of how this carries, because of its kind of form factor, I really tend to like these teardrop style of knives where, you know, you have more width here at the pivot and it tapers down. They consistently, at least for me, carry quite nicely in pocket, and certainly this one pockets quite well and is fairly unobtrusive. And that's where this knife, I think, really shines. It's absolutely a piece of artwork, okay? There's no question. This is a beautiful, beautiful knife, but it still at least tries to do a pretty good job of cutting stuff. And that's one of the things that we really, really look for. At least I really look for. You know, this knife is sort of, what would you say? This knife is sort of walking a fine line between function and form. And if it went just a little bit further, I might not be as impressed with it as I am. But as it stands, it's struck a pretty decent balance. It's still extremely attractive, really interesting, but manages to cut well. And this really could be, you know, your primary EDC knife if you really wanted to have something kind of special and unique like this. By the way, I should have mentioned at the beginning, but I didn't. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, right over here. All right, hold on. This is number 389 out of 700. So when I say something special and unique, this is a limited run piece. So that's pretty cool in and of itself. So now let's talk about this blade. Really nice satin finish on this blade. I've got to say, the blade itself, I think, is a real win on this particular knife. We've got M390 steel, satin finish, and in terms of the cutting edge, it's pretty thin. Now, it is fairly abrupt in terms of the angle back here. So at the base down here, you know, think about this. You've got quite a bit of angle here. And so it's not probably going to be the very best slicer that you've ever experienced, but it's definitely more than adequate. I have no issues with this as a cutting tool whatsoever. You've got this nice upswept tip that is quite fine. Okay, so take a look at that. This is not a knife you're going to want to pry with, or certainly not a knife you're going to want to drop. And one other thing I want to point out here is notice that This is the kind of plunge grind that often causes problems, but in creating this, We has paid close enough attention to that that you have no little smile back here. So I've got to give him some credit for getting those details right. And so overall, this blade is definitely very, very good. You're not really making a big compromise in terms of cutting performance with this knife. It really cuts quite well, despite the fact that it's a very artistic looking blade. And it really is, very, very attractive, as well as being fairly useful as a cutting tool. Moving on to the action here, we have typical We action. Okay, so if you've had We knives before, you know that we've got ceramic bearings, ceramic detent ball. Generally speaking, we have, at least these days, we have a pretty dialed in detent. I used to complain the last couple of years, 2016, 2015, We knives I found tended to have softer detents than I wanted, but that problem really has been remedied and they've been doing a really good job. And so this one is definitely no exception. The detent is quite nice. It's very smooth, just as you would expect from We. If you look in here, let's take a look first at the lock bar. So notice how this is sort of I want to call it like a frame-ish lock, okay? What we have here is the handle really is partially carbon fiber and partially titanium. So it's not fair really to call either one of these, the primary handle material. If you look at the way the titanium extends here, you can see that the carbon fiber really does wrap around, okay? And this lock bar starts, I don't know if you're going to be able to see the lock bar cut. I can see it quite fine, but I'm trying to find an angle here that maybe I can show it to you. I guess you're gonna have to take my word for it, guys. But if I put my finger, well, actually you can tell by the clip. So right about where the base of the clip is here, that's where the lock bar cutout starts on the inside. So the lock bar is from the titanium, and then what they've done is cut it off here. Instead of extending this all the way up to the tang of the blade, the way we're used to seeing, they've cut it out in a more decorative fashion and use sort of this insert to get us all the way up to the blade tang. That's a really nice way of pulling this off. It allows them some creative expression in the lock bar while still functioning very, very nicely. So I've got to give a lot of credit to We for the way they pulled that off. Really, really nice. It's fairly easy to access as well. So that's the other thing I always try to assess when it comes to the action of a knife is, can I fairly easily and consistently lock it and unlock it, open it and close it, in other words. Now, here's the point where I will have a bit of a complaint. The flipper tab, in terms of the design, the flipper tab is really, really nice. It's extremely small. It doesn't interrupt the flow of the knife in any way because it's so unobtrusive. However, it also is a little uncomfortable and a little harder to access. Instead of flipping this the way you would normally, so here's the location of a typical flipper tab. You're gonna either push straight down or straight in on this. With this knife, you're almost flipping it in the direction of a front flipper. So I don't know if any of you have had a front flipper and mastered the method where you pull this finger over and pull it back, but it's kind of the same kind of motion. You're almost pulling that finger backward. And honestly, it's a little bit awkward. You can do it, and obviously you can see that I've flipped this enough that I'm fairly competent with it. And if this was your knife, I mean, you absolutely would get to the point where you can do it pretty comfortably. But I would have liked to see it be just a little more intuitive. I would have liked, to see this flipper tab located either a little further down here, or I wish they would have done something different with that flipper tab just to make it a little more accessible. Now, on the bright side, if you're one of those guys who likes to spidey flick your knives, this knife works really, really well for that. The hole, your finger sort of lands, at least mine does, quite naturally in a spot where it doesn't go through the hole, but it just kind of hooks in. You can also open it with your thumb. The other thing is the way that they've done this lock bar, you're not easily going to get your fingers on the lock bar, which is going to make the action a little more consistent as well. So that's my discussion of lockup and deployment. You can see there are some things there I really like. Of course, being a We Knife, it's smooth, it's nice. All of that stuff that we've come to expect from We Knives is definitely here. Wish the flipper tab were done just a little bit differently. But as I say, if you were to own this knife, and even, me having had a chance to play with it and flip it and carry it and stuff, I don't have to think about it anymore. But when I first got it, I really had a hard time flipping this knife. It's not very intuitive. Now, while we're talking about, actually, I'll hold on to that other discussion. So yeah, action is very, very good. Absolutely impressed with everything except, of course, the flipper tab. Let's move on now to handle construction. And the big note here is that all of these screws are Torx. Gotta say, I love seeing that from We Knives. And we've already kind of talked about the way this is built, but I want you to kind of take a look here. You can see it there. So we really do have the frame being made up of both carbon fiber and titanium. I'm not going to take this knife apart to show you. Hold on, there we go. I don't know why it wouldn't focus there, but yeah, we really do have this knife being made up of carbon fiber and titanium. The fit and finish on the transition here is absolutely excellent, as it is pretty well throughout. Full backspacer here, and that's not my favorite way of doing things, but I really, to be honest, it works fine in this knife. And notice that detail here. Hold on. Why am I having such a hard time getting this to focus today? There we go, Isham Zeta. And so you got this nice big backspacer that, the knife only weighs 4 ounces, so I really can't complain too much about the backspacer, but it does make it just a little harder to maintain. It's a little easier to clean a knife that's full, standoff or pillar construction. Finally, we have this very attractive milled titanium clip, and just look at how well that integrates into this design overall. It really, really fits the knife extremely well, and it also fits in your pocket pretty well. So I can't really complain too much about that. In fact, I've got to give a lot of credit. I don't know, clips are one of those things where a milled clip is nice, but it really needs to fit the knife, and they don't always do a great job of that, but certainly this one has done very, very well. So that's my overall take on construction. Finally, in terms of ergonomics, this knife does work really well. I've got my little guy here asking me a question. Okay, there we go. He just wanted to ask about playing hockey when I was done recording, so that's fine. Now you guys know what I'll be doing when I'm done here. I'll be going to play a little bit of hockey in the gym at the church here. So back to the knife itself. In terms of ergonomics, this is actually pretty good. In a saber grip, it works really, really well. And like many knives, I find the saber grip is going to be the best for this guy. The back here does really peter away quite quickly. And I don't know, if you had really big hands, I could see that being a problem. For me, it's not really a problem, but it starts to feel like it could become one. So I will have to say that about the ergonomics here. It feels quite comfortable, and there are no hot spots. And so from that perspective, I've got to give top marks. I do like the finger choil, the way they've done it here. Very deep, very well protected from riding up onto the blade here. In reverse grip, it's also very, very good. It's a little harder to show reverse grip on camera, but you can kind of see it there. Quite comfortable in reverse grip. So I have no big issues with the ergonomics on this guy. Have no problem with, how much grip area. By the way, I normally, I'm sorry guys, I don't have a tape measure really close by, so I can't give you a measurement there, but I have, about a size large hand, and you can see I have no problem here. So even with an extra large hand, I think you would be okay. Now, there are some pretty steep competitors in this portion of the marketplace. This We Knife, I think, is going to do better than a lot of their others. One, I think the design is extremely well done. I think it's struck a good balance between being, artistic and interesting without being, gaudy and over the top. And so I definitely see this knife being pretty popular. especially in We's lineup, but even on the larger scale. I think this is going to be a knife that a lot of people are drawn to. That said, let me pull in some competitors here. Certainly, I think we're almost in Chris Reeve territory. We're not quite to that price point, and I do think that does say something about the value here. I think these guys are going to be going for around $300 if they're still available. And I don't know, to my knowledge, there probably still are some kicking around out there. If there aren't, I think watch the secondary market. I don't think these will be impossible to get. All right, but there it is beside an Inkosi. That should also give you a good idea on the size, since this is a pretty well-known knife. Thinking of, I guess this is not going to be a competitive option, but let's pull a couple of knives in here more to give you an idea of size. So there it is beside a Rat Model 1. You can see this is a fairly large knife. I really like the blade to handle ratio. It does a better job than the Rat 1. Since we're on this sort of segment of the video, let's go ahead and pull a Pair 2 in here as well, since again, people are very, very familiar with that. Okay, so that should give you a good idea of size. And again, notice if I kind of line these up where the blade starts, notice how much more blade you're getting on that Zeta, which I do think is quite nice. What else have I got that would be, here's another knife that I think is a great design. Now, this knife I would say is maybe a little better when it comes to that function and form relationship. This is a beautiful, beautiful knife, but you really don't sacrifice anything when it comes to performance with the swish. I love this knife, and that's one of the reasons. Now, again, you're going to be in a higher price point on this guy. Let's bring... there's the Riyadh Torrent. These guys have just become available again, and I think you can find them at retailers now, both in this configuration as well as in some anodized ones with different inlays there, which is quite nice again. So a little closer in price point. I think these guys are going to be about $50 more. I think these go for $350 or $375, and this goes for about $300. Again, Riyadh, I would say, is probably bar none the highest quality, highest tolerances, or tightest tolerances that you're going to get from the Chinese manufacturers. I should have had a Kaiser here. I don't know why I don't, but I do have a ZT. So again, if you like titanium frame locks and you'd like to find something like this in a slightly more affordable option or category, I guess ZT is definitely doing some great stuff and always offers pretty good value for a dollar. And finally, what would it be without a Cold Steel Formax? The funny thing is, these are actually not that far apart in terms of price. You're getting quite a bit more knife out of the Formax, but you're going to have to carry that quite a bit more around with you if you go that route. So there you go, guys. Those are some comparisons and some thoughts on how this knife kind of stacks up. I do think it's very attractive, and I do think that even given some of the other knives I showed you, this guy is going to hold its own very, very well, not only in terms of action and smoothness and quality, but absolutely in terms of design. This is a really, really nicely done design. So overall, what do I think of this knife? I think this is an absolutely beautiful piece of functional artwork. It is artistic, yet it works really well. Obviously, the biggest issue that I have with this knife would be the flipper. And I will say after some time, and not even a long time, I did kind of figure it out, but there is a bit of a learning curve there. The other thing about it is even when you do get good at flipping this, it always remains a little bit uncomfortable. So that's my maybe even larger issue, is to the discomfort from it. Otherwise though, great knife. Overall, awesome design, well built. I think this is a real win for We Knives. And if you're thinking of getting one of these, because you just love the design, I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.